What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and I think this is going to be a brief video today, but I just want to talk to you about stress. Now look, we all experience stress, and of course there's stress from running, there's stress if you sign up for a race knowing that you have to train for it for weeks and weeks and weeks, but there's also life stress, and we've all got life stress. Could be job, could be relationship, could be addiction, could be death. I mean, there are any number of things that can stress us. And I'm not going to give you any stress relieving tips, but if you have experienced any kind of stress and you want to share what you have done, what reduces your stress, I'd love for you to drop it in the comments below. But keep in mind, I know some of you are going to say that running is a stress reliever, and it is up until a point, but actually running releases a lot of cortisol, so it's actually a stressor. But I think I'm getting ahead of myself because we know there are good stresses and bad stresses. There's stress and eustress, and running actually being a stressor is only a problem when we take it too far, like if we run too much and we're not letting ourselves recover. And it turns out that other stresses in our life can contribute to our running stress, making that stress even more compounded. But you know what, that's a long enough introduction. Let's roll the intro. Okay, thanks for hanging about. Now, I did come across an article in runningphysio.com. I think the actual address is running-physio.com, but it is the Running Physio. And they posted an article a couple weeks ago, and the article was titled, "Is Stress Slowing Down Your Running?" And I thought that was a pretty interesting question, because as I already said, we know a lot of us, we run to relieve stress. Like, it's what we do for fun. Some of you like to go out at the end of your day. So after a stressful day at work, you like to go out, go for a run, and you feel better when you come home. Me, I like to wake up in the morning, and then I get to use those positive feelings that I've generated in the run throughout the entire day. And I think this makes sense, at least it makes sense on the surface, in that we kind of know that if we have a bad mood, we may not be running at our best. Right, so that tells us that mood and our psychology actually affects our workouts, affects our running. And ultimately, if we are stressed, we are not going to be running at our best because it's affecting everything about us in our life. In this case, specifically our running. So there was a study in the Netherlands that found that a negative life event, so think bereavement or being the victim of a crime, something like that, those negative life events can actually increase stress, which is not surprising, but it can also impair recovery and reduce running economy. Yes, that's very specific, I know. But the study that they did, and sorry, I'm going to read this right off the screen, was a prospective, not experimental cohort study, and it was conducted over an entire training season. And ultimately, they had 16 runners in the study, and they recorded their stress scores every week throughout the training season. Oh, and I should say that each of the 16 athletes throughout this training season, they all experienced the same negative life event. Now, I don't have access to the full study, so I don't know what that negative life event is, but if I think about it, I can't imagine that 16 runners on a team are all going to be the victim of a crime, so I'm assuming it's some kind of bereavement. So these runners completed their measures, telling the researchers about their stress levels throughout the entire season. And it was found that in the week of the negative life event, their general well-being, as well as their social and physical recovery, were reduced, right? That's not surprising. But what was actually surprising in this study, and the part that I actually want to tell you about, was that in week 3, after the negative life event of the 16 athletes, their general well-being had gone back down to normal levels. But get this, in week 3, their running economy was reduced. And let me just remind you that their general well-being had gone back to normal. So what does that tell you? It tells me, and it told the researchers, I don't know if it actually told me anything because I just read it, but it told me that even when we think we're feeling good, if we have experienced some kind of negative life event, some kind of stressors, then it could still affect our running weeks after the actual event. That's important to keep in mind. It's important to keep in mind if you are the type of runner that is chasing specific numbers, maybe performance metrics, maybe if you're running 400s or 800s, or you enter a race and you're not performing how you think you should. Think back, has there been any stresses in my life in the last couple of weeks? Of course, this is compounded on top of all the regular stresses that we're dealing with on a daily basis, as well as training stresses. I know when it gets close to a marathon, in the weeks leading up to the marathon, I am definitely more stressed just because my body is hurting a lot more. And you know, it's almost crunch time and it's time to perform. But it's been shown that your running economy is going to be reduced after a negative life event. So keep that in mind if you experience one. I shouldn't say if. Unfortunately, it's going to be when. So ultimately, we can break it down that stress does slow us down. So keep that in mind and go easy on yourself, because I know that we are the hardest people on ourselves when it comes to our own performance. Like, none of your people that follow you on Strava, they don't care. Like, they see what you're doing and they think you're brilliant. It's us. We can be very hard on ourselves. And look, I'm going to place a link to an article that I'm citing in the show notes below, and you may want to just click on that and have a quick read through. It's really not that long. But the next study that they mention suggests that stress may reduce our ability to actually adapt to exercise. And there was a very small study that the article cited, and again in a nutshell, because I don't want to waste too much of your time, but it showed that people with higher stress levels were unable to show an improvement in fitness. Now, I do have to say that that study only took place over 2 weeks, which is a very short time in the scheme of things, but it's worth thinking about, especially, let's say, if you found yourself hitting a plateau with your running. And no, again, it's worth thinking about. Oh, and stress has also been shown to impede our recovery from resistance training. So if you're in the gym and you're doing your weights, you're doing everything that you know you should to make you a better runner, well, you may not become that better runner because you're so stressed and you're not recovering from that resistance workout, so you're not running your best. And of course you're not running your best because you're stressed, just piling on top of each other, right? So guys, I am going to place a link in the show notes below, and it's going to be a stress assessment, and it's a free assessment, and it's on a Likert scale, so it goes from like always to never. And you just pick your answers to the question, and then it will tell you how stressed you are. I know that at this very moment, and because the questions go back a month, or they make you look back a month, it seems I am experiencing a time of very low stress, which is good because I have a marathon coming up. My training is just about to get into the really intense section of it, so it's good to know that I'm going into that with very low stress. But go ahead and take that test, and if you want to share your stress score in the comments, I would love to see it. You know, I think we're going to wrap up the video here. I know I've only been talking for a few minutes, and I was almost going to jump into stress solutions, but that is so far out of my lane, and we all have access to the same information on the internet that I'm just not going to bother. And with that, it's Matt B. This has been a video on how stress can influence our running. And if you have made it to this point in the video, I want you to put the emoji of the face with the sunglasses, because that emoji just conveys being cool and calm and not stressed at all. And that is what I wish for you. Alright guys, be kind, be happy, run well. See you in a couple of days.